Lesson 5, fuel supply of the units. Learning event, fuel supply pump, jump the fuel injection pump must be supplied with the fuel under the pressure because they have the insufficient suction ability there for all the injection supply with the supply of the pump, the transfer of fuel with the supply tank for the injector pump, the pumps used for the purpose of they have the positive the suction level, and all the performance large independently any responsible variation of the viscosity pressure for the temperature for the fuel of the pump, and then use the day with the plunger and the gear of the type of the valve vein type of the fuel oil pump shown with the figure 66, 67 the vein type of the integral stereo of the rotor shaft, the one of the end of the support with the pump flange, the other end of the cup of the revolve the body with the bore with the eccentric of the rotor with the toe side of the vein with the place with the 180 degrees apart of the slot in the rotor with the end and pressed against the body bore with the spring and the slot the fuel oil seal with the pump shaft the preventing leakage of the fuel lubricating oil the drain hole between two seal leave the atmosphere with the shaft is rotated the vein picks up the fuel inlet port with the carrying it around the body with the outlet side where the fuel is discharged the pressure produced the wedging action of the fuel as the force as it is forced toward the outlet port with the body of the vein the spring load of the horizontal relief of the valve the proper with the cover of the pump with the connection with the inlet outlet port opening the pressure approximately 55 psi of the valve does not properly open the sense of the purpose of the release relieve the excessive pump of the pressure for the any of the fuel line with the filter become plugged in the build up the extremely high pressure for the pump in the pump when the relief valve opens the fuel pump the discharge of the side of the pressure side of the suction side of the pump the figure 65 the main type of the fuel supply pump the rotor cover the body with flange oil seals or the veins veins and pump body with the veins outerlet port with the inlet port with the spring guide with the valve spring in the rotor. This 50 here 67 show the fuel supply and relief valve the washer inlet port with the cage the pump cover the outlet port C valve the retaining spring and the retaining screw. Plunger type shown in figure 68 usually mounted directly on the housing the injection pump the driven the injector pump the camshaft the variable strokes self-regulating plunger type of the pump that will be made build up the pressure of the predetermined point the injector pump that can allow the plunger to be forced with the spring toward the camshaft the suction after the created the inlet valve that permits the fuel enter the plunger spring chamber as the cam lobe the drive of the plunger against the spring of the fuel force and by the pump to the outlet valve of the round of the chamber the created with the black of the pump and the forward remove the injector pump the cam the continue to rotate allow the plunger spring of the which is now under the compression the press of the plunger backward again forth the fuel oil behind the plunger out of the fuel leading of the filters of the injection pump at the same time the plunger is a grin creating a suction effect which allows the additional fuel to flow through the inlet valve of the spring chamber the pumping action to continue as long as the fuel is being used with the injection pump fast enough to keep the supply of the pressure from rising to the point where they equal the force exerted by the spring on the plunger the pressure between the supply pump and the injection pump the hold of the plunger for the stationary against the spring of the way from the rod to prevent the further pumping the action pressure zone drops enough to permit the plunger to resume operation the entire cycle the automatic continues as long as the engine is running. Figure 68 the plunger type of the fuel supply line the injector plunger cam the plunger of the inlet valve the outlet valve of the chamber and the back plunger's addition fuel. Gear type of the fuel pump shown in figure 69 with the positive display from the gear type of the pump the drive the fuel pump the supply with the blower with the shaft the rotate the two oil seal to prevent leak with the cover the body with the sail and the two valves bend with the shirt of the correct shaft alignment cover the body making sure that they're perfectly flat when they require no gas the two gears provided with the pumping the action the relief valve of the pump the body will bypass the fuel to prevent the excessive discharge pressure. Figure 69 show the gear type of the fuel pump the show the plug with the gasket spring with the pump with the body the relief valve the oil seal the valve pin with the drive gear with the pumping cover of the drive shaft the seal ball the driving shaft with the drive gear with the screw. Learning event 2, the governors. All the diesel engines required for the governor to prevent overspeeding with the engine or under light loads of the automotive the diesel engine that also demand control of the idling speed. All insulation will provide with the variable speed control, which in addition control minimum and maximum speed will maintain the intermediate speeds desired by the operator with the engine speed with the diesel engine controlled by the amount of the fuel injected the injection system is designed to supply the maximum amount of the fuel with the enable this engine to operate with the full load to reach the predetermined maximum speed have with the maximum fill with the surcharge with the supply with the cylinder with the engine operating with under the partial load no load with the engine speed with the increase beyond this critical range of the tune of the cause of the failure of the governor must control the amount of fuel injected in order to control the engine speed. The all actuation of the governor may be the actuator of the movement of the central figure light flyweights. May press the differential procedure for the governor valve of the venture for the assembly of the central figure flyweight. The type of the incorporated the mechanical linkage system with the control of the injection of the pump may include the hydraulic system transmit the action of the weight of the pump with the rate with the acceleration must be high with the governor control of the weights must be small to obtain the required rapid response with the governor. The small weights not exert the sufficient force for the control of the injection equipment instead of the injection pump that will control the servo piston to utilize the pressure of the pump with the governor the central figure weight the actuate the valve with the control of the amount of the oil going into the servo piston. Mechanical central figure the operation of the mechanical manipulation of the central figure force rotating the weights with the counterbalance by the balance by the spring with the engine then increase the weights with the outward pulling the suitable linkage of the chain for the setting of the injection pump the control rod of the governor linkage connected with the injection pump the same manner with the spring moves control of the mechanism toward the full fuel position actuating the flyweight to reduce the amount of the fuel delivered with the typical variable speed governor shown schematically directly in Figure 70 on page 124. Mechanical central figure of the governor for the operating left of the yoke with the sliding collar or the actuating arm, the pivot of the pivot and pin with the shafting shaft over the fill bracket from low speed and high speed. With this type of the governor, the operative area for the governor's speed, the tension for the quality, control of the quality of the fuel does not at any time for the move of the injector for the control of the bracket directly with the control bracket of the injector pump, the connected with the yoke with the governor's touch for the man for the aim for the movement of the yoke will directly affect the quantity of the fuel injected, the spring tension for the control by the operating lever of the movement is determined by piston of the foot with the throttle of the travel operating lever is limited by the idle maximum speed screw with the weight of the fuel collapse the engine stop with the spring move with the sliding sleeve of the yoke with the fuel injection pump with the fuel position weight of the fuel extended with the sliding with the sleeve of the yoke to move to the right of the decrease of the amount of fuel delivered. If loading the engine decrease the engine tends to accelerate, however the engine accelerates the governor flyweights move outward the result of the increased central force of since the flyweights are in contact with the sliding of the sleeve of the assembly of the movement, the cover of the longitudinal movement of the sleeve of the right of the mount, and then continues until the equilibrium is established between the governor spring force and the central figure observed of the flyweight, the curve of the engine, and return to the original speed is determined by the position of the foot of the throttle and the effect of the governor spring. If the load of the engine and creep of the engine tends to slow down, thereby causing the inward movement of the flyweights, the weight, the movement inward of the compressed governor spring sheath of the sleeve of the left side of the end spring force, the central figure force exerted with the flyweights again with the or against balancing the weight of the yoke of the flowing of the movement of the sliding with the sleeve of the movement of the control rack with the fuel injection pump towards the more fuel position, thereby for the return of the engine to the preset speed. To accelerate the vehicle in the full throttle of the press, which in the turn increases the spring tension for the cover of the yoke with the left of, thereby increases the supply of the fuel of the flyweight over the where to result with the increase of the engine speed of the preventing the control rack of the reaching the fuel position unless the throttle is depressed. Deceleration accomplished the reverse man of spring pressure for the decrease of the engine slowdown with the fly load, move the more of the balance condition between the flyweights and the spring with obtained with lower engine speed. The adjustable bumper of the spring with the prevents the rapid oscillation for the control rack of the no load engine speed with the spring contact with the yoke idling speed of the ensure for the steady operation for the governor bumper spring with also ensure for the prevent stalling of the engine over the sudden deceleration in low speed as it prevents for the control rack of the low fuel injection pump with the move with the full stop of the position with the speed and change of the curves. Pneumatic volume control of the actuating port for the pneumatic vacuum control of the governor figure 71 the pressure drop of the cover with the velocity of air of the passing through the venture located with the air with the intake manifold of the governor consists essentially of the atmospheric suspended with the diaphragm connected by a linkage of the control rack of the fuel injection pump. The change from one side of the diaphragm is open to the atmosphere with the chamber. The other side of the seal connected to the venture within the manifold addition with the spring action with the seal side of the chamber. The move of the diaphragm with the control of the rack of the full fuel position by the engine not operating with the both side of the diaphragm at the atmospheric pressure. When the engine is running, however, the pressure of the seal of the chamber is produced below the atmospheric pressure existing in the outer of the chamber. The amount of the pressure reduction depends on the position over the governor valve with the speed of the engine pressure, the differential of the position of the diaphragm, and the consequence with the control lever of the governor valve with the control by the lever which is connected with the linkage of the foot throttle with the non-actuating connection between the foot throttle of the governor or the fuel injection pump. Figure 71 shows the pneumatic vacuum control with the governor, 2 atmosphere of the valve with the valve entry manifold, the spring of the diaphragm and control rod. In the engine operating under low of the speed is below the governor speed with the velocity of the air passing with the ventry comparatively low and the only side with the pressure differential pressure with the spring with the move of the diaphragm control rack toward the fuel position engine speed approach with the governor and speed with the simple principle that prevents the engine from overspeeding at the light speed light loads the engine speed with the velocity of the air with the vent increase with the result of the pressure differential of the diaphragm is increased the differential insufficient to overcome the spring force to cover the diaphragm control rack to move the over the stop of the position when the engine is operating governing speed with the valve wide open the pressure differential just slightly below the spring force within the diaphragm remains full delivery position. For any position with the governor valve with the idling full load of the engine diaphragm plunge with the relative position since aiming to move of the diaphragm also transmit the control rack amount of fuel delivery definitely control of the engine, all engine speed. If the pressure drops between the chamber to increase the diaphragm is moved the direction less for the fuel delivery the pressure drops and the degree of the spring kind move the control rack of the direction rate their full delivery. Therefore, in order to increase the speed of the engine, governor valve is open, but the decrease of the engine speed of the valve closed. The learning event 3, fuel filters. Generally, through careful filtration necessary to keep the diesel engine efficient, diesel fuels are most viscous, but the gasoline contain the more of the gums abrasive particles with cause of the premature wear of the injection equipment. The abrasive may consist of the material that is difficult to eliminate during the refining, made of the tank during the careless refueling, regardless of the source of the abrasive must be removed from the fuel. Configuration. Most of the diesel engine design include the two filters in the fuel fuel supply system protect the closely fitted the part of the pump nozzle for the primary fuel filter. You've located between the fuel tank and the fuel supply pump. Permanent filter contained the coarse filter medium to remove the large foreign matter. The secondary fuel filter you've located between the fuel supply pump, the fuel injection pump. Secondary filter contains a fine filter medium with the remove the enough of the most minute trace of the foreign material from the fuel with additional filler elements frequently are installed between the injection pump and the nozzle. Type of the diesel fuel oil filters are referred to as a full flow filter because all the fuel must pass through them before reaching the injection pump. The diesel fuel filters usually incorporates an air valve to release any of the air that might accumulate the filter during the operation. The primary filter figures 72. Metal filters are used the primary filters because the fine particles that pass through them are not harmful to the supply pump with a solid larger than 5,000th of an inch remaining the outside metal disc with a larger one, foreign matter maturity of the water of the cell to the bottom of the bowl. From here, the foreign matter can be removed with the drain plug of the relief of the valve of the filter cover and enable the oil to bypass the filter element if the disc becomes clogged. Figure 72 shows the primary fuel filter, the relief valve of the fuel, and the fuel out, the metal disc, and the drain plug. Secondary fuel filters, figure 73 fabric filters become the greater filtering qualities of the primary main filters, protecting the fuel injection pump, the filter medium, the large bag of the closing, even woolen, litness, acid resisting textile material. The maximum benefit is derived from the bag's larger area to keep at the side of the bag separated with the wire screen. The screen the same side of the bag of the two of the fast feeding detachable central feeding spool with the wound around the fuel to be filtered with the flow of the filter inlet at the top through the spool out of the ports inside of the bag with the solid abrasive for the carbon area are cut in the bag with a clean fuel pass for the outward fuel outlet. The bag may be removed and cleaned and reinstalled. The figure 73, the secondary fuel filter fuel inlet with the wire screen fuel filter bag of the wire screen filter bag with the fuel outlet with the section through the filter assembly. Alright, learning event number 4, timing device. The large percent of the fuel injection pump that have the timing device incorporated in the entire time of the fuel injection pump begin with the fuel improving the diesel engine performance of the economy. The same the reason for verifying the timing spark with the proof of the performance of the gasoline engine. Description. Figure 74, the timing device usually consists of the aluminum casting of the mounting flange with the both ends of the bore housing out of the support of the spider assembly. The type of the opening of the cup is located at the top of the housing. You can observe the position of the timing point of the relation of the timing the mark of the timing device for the hub during the injection pump timing procedure. Figure 74 shows the timing device for the building sliding gear of space for the timing gear of the timer corner of the timing device to the spring and place space for the sliding gear of the timing device hub, the flyweight, the weight of the spider assembly, weight of the spider thrust plate. Operation figure 75 that the engine rotate the weight of the spider assembly, the central figure force to open the flyweights from the collapse position again for the force of the 3 timing device the springs. If the flyweight springs open the sliding gear, the force of the torque of the timing device hub, the longitudinal movement of the sliding gear with the high electrical spline caused with the slight change of the rotational relation for the injection pump of the engine caused the injection to begin with a slight easier power stroke. Figure 75 of the timing device operation. The weight of the spider assembly of the timing device, the timing hub, the low speed flyweight, high speed with the sliding gear of the timing adjusting speed. Learning event number 5, cold weather starting aid. The general diesel engine are difficult to start with the cold weather. This is the mainly low volatile fuel with the most popular method of assessing the diesel engine. The starting of the air with the preheating injection air with the intake of the manifold so adequate vaporization take place for the combustion, injecting the fuel into the air to remain with the volatile enough for the cold weather to initiate the combustion and intake of the manifold flame heater system. Figure 76 on page 134. Engines are equipped with the flame type of the manifold heater for the induction of the air during the cold weather, starting with the warming up operations. Operation of the flame heater assembly with the housing of the spark plug flow, the control knob with the 2 solenoid control valve, the spark plug, the engine drive, the flame heater for the ignition unit, the nozzle spray fuel, or the pressure into the intake of the manifold, assembly the elbow, assembly fuel vapor that can have the spark fluid with the burners in the intake of the manifold, heating the air and for the combustion chamber with the flame fuel pump, the assembly the rotary tap of the drain for the enclosed by the electric motor, the fuel pump, receive with the vehicle with the fuel tank through the vehicle supply pump that delivers it into the spray knob, the fuel pump, the engine drive, the off of the switch located with the instrument panel, fuel solenoids are used within the flame heater system. The valves are energized whenever the system is activated. The valve to ensure that the fuel is delivered on the system and operating with the top of the fuel to the engine and the heater system is shut down. The manifold flame fuel the aim heater system, either injection system, figure 77 the either injection system is for the cold blood. They're starting with the diesel engine, injected either into the intake of manifold, either with the very volatile vapor out of the readily cold weather initiating combustion, or operation pre-canorized containing either fitted with the engine with the flow of the end of the canister, the spray, the nozzle control with the solenoid, the valve closed with the energized solenoid controlled by the push button switch of the instrument. When the switch is pushed in the solenoid and drive that open either the canister for the pressure of the canister push for the either the connection tube of the nozzle of the weather discharged into the tank manifold. Figure 77, either the injection system, the hand pump, the pressurized containers for the solenoid valve, the injection valve, the temperature sensor, push button switch from the ground, battery to the ground. Alright, and that completes the reading of U.S. Army Engineering Equipment Instruction, Equipment Diesel Fuel Systems.